Hi Audrey. Today we're going to get ready to paint. In watercolor, you have to protect your white because the paper is your white. So people will often use resists. So what I mean by that is it will resist the paint. It'll protect the paper. So what I'm using right now is a watercolor masking fluid or a frisket. And I'm going to be experimenting on a scrap piece of watercolor paper. What I did was I sort of put my background color on the top of it and let it dry, and then I left the bottom blank. So anything in your house that has a waxiness to it will work. So feel free to experiment. If you find out something cool, share it with me. Probably the easiest is a white crayon. Look at just what happened right now. Oh my gosh, the this bottle comes with like these precision tips that you're supposed to be able to attach, but they always fall off. So now I'm going to use just a tiny brush and I'm dipping it into that puddle and I'm painting it over. Now we won't be able to see the results of this until the end of the video because with a watercolor mask like this, you have to let it dry before you paint over it, and then you don't remove it until you're safe. So usually that means till you're done. Some of the other things I've grabbed are a white color pencil, a white pastel pencil, whiteout pen, and a white watercolor pencil, which is totally useless. Don't even worry about that one. And an eraser pencil. Now, I know you probably don't have all of these at home, and that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to help you learn how to problem solve ahead of time. So something like this will take you 15 minutes, but save you hours of frustration on your actual painting. One of the things that I found worked really well was erasing through the watercolor I already painted and then putting white pastel pencil over the top. Now, I didn't have a white crayon, otherwise I would have tried that because I know that works really, really well, and a crayon is something you can sharpen. When you find a combination or a technique that you like, make sure to write it down because if you try out a bunch of things, you might forget. I'm a pretty forgetful person, so I do this. Okay, so I'm going to try the whiteout pen. It's going to be super bright and awesome, but it also kind of looks a little clunky. It's hard to get that really thin line. But like that saying, you don't know until you try, right? Okay, so I just have things sped up. I want you to experiment with your own materials. You can barely tell, but I drew a bottle with some stars in it down there with a white color pencil. And what I find by the end of all of this is that using the white color pencil first will help let that white line show up, and then you can use the eraser and then the white pastel pencil. So that's the technique I would choose with my materials. Yours are different. So another issue in this picture is that the text Milky Way, right? The font, it doesn't have an outline on it. So I would suggest outlining it in the color that's on the opposite side. So with Milky, right, you can outline it with peach. With Way, you could probably have a good time and outline it with whichever bottle it's in front of. And of course, the basket has an outline, so that's easy, right? You just outline that in a warm gray, kind of like a brownish gray, right? So right now I'm going to be doing some experimenting right on this drawing. I don't want you to do that. I want you to be sure of yourself before you do it. But I know that my drawing is just practice. And one of the lessons I learned was that my pencil lines are way too dark. So it didn't even matter if I put white color pencil over. It was just dark. So I would recommend erasing so that it's just barely there. So you can see it, but it's not going to show through your white pencil. Just to see how it looks, I used my white pencil to draw another bottle off on the side to see what it would look like if there wasn't any pencil line. And it's very faint, and so I have this idea. Here I am trying to erase through it. It's not doing much, right? But I had this idea to do a second layer of paint, and making it darkest where it comes up against the line. So you'll see that that actually solves the problem, and I think that's a pretty good technique. Isn't that cool? And there you go, right? So I love that look. Now the last thing to do is to check that watercolor frisket and remove it and see how that came out. So I'm just rubbing it with my finger to peel it off. And it is obviously the brightest white because it's pure paper under there. But it may be a little harder to control. But if you have it, I recommend using it in a tiny, tiny brush. All right, see you in class. Bye.